So hi everyone. Thank you for inviting me to this presentation, to this training session. So today I will share experiences about Miyawaki Forest. I will be talking about general management, maintenance, watering, and the importance of using a native species when you create Miyawaki forests. So this is how, so I am based in Belgium. I've been working, creating Miyawaki forest for 8 years now, so I have a bit of experience. I made over 100 Miyawaki forests in Belgium, France, and one in Germany. So this is an example. This is actually the first Miyawaki forest I created in Belgium. And you see the evolution from a simple lawn to the day the trees were planted. Then you have a photo 1 year later and the result 5 years after planting. So we have a temperate climate. It doesn't grow as fast as in the tropics, but still we get quite amazing results. The trees are very healthy, it's very dense, can be used as a green screen. It will attract biodiversity. It helps absorb water faster in the ground. So it's very useful. It brings people together. It makes the neighborhood more enjoyable with greenery, with true ecosystems. So this is an example in Belgium. This place used to be a car park, as you can see on the left, and we turned that into a Miyawaki forest. So we had to remove the top layer and then to dig in the soil, bring amendments like manure, compost, shredded material. And then we planted all the trees with volunteers. And planting is not enough. You also need to care for the trees. So there are quite lots of weeds. Sometimes you also get weeds because you use straw to cover the ground. So the seeds might sprout and you get weeds, in your forest. And the volunteers, we call back the volunteers to help us do the maintenance. So the idea is to keep the trees free of invasive weeds, which might cover the trees and take the light and this kind of things. It's really a good time. It's when we are many volunteers together, even if it's quite tiring, it's handwork. But being together, having fun, sharing some drinks, make it a lot of fun. And this is the result less than 2 years later. This forest grew really fast, as you can see. And instead of being a car park, now you have a path where people walk to the park and cross this forest. They like it very much. So you see the transformation from what it used to be to what it is now. After a year and a half, less than 2 years, it's quite amazing how much of a change. And you can imagine all the insects, the birds, some rodents. I mean, it's full of life and it's beautiful. So it can also go wrong. This is an example of a Miyawaki forest that went wrong. We did it for the industry and they didn't want to do the maintenance. They forgot about it. They didn't care. And of course, the weeds took over and really covered the trees. The weeds choked the trees. They couldn't grow properly. Many died. So maintenance is really important. It's needed for 2 years. And the forest should be totally self-sustaining after 3 years. So it's a bit of work, twice a year, maybe 3 times. Sometime only 1 time a year is enough. It depends, from site to site. But maintenance is definitely required. This is another example. This is really it's a main park in Brussels. It's really the center of Brussels. It's a famous park. And it got really, really dry. In 2022, we had the worst drought in Belgium in decades. It rains quite a lot in Belgium. It's a bit like England and places like that. But this one summer, we didn't get any rain for 3 months. We've never seen that in Belgium. And of course, the vegetation suffer a lot. But the good news is that we realized that the trees are very resilient. The Miyawaki method is very strong. It can really cope with the worst weather. Of course, it got so bad that we had to do some watering. We did it only once or twice that summer. That's all we had to do. But that was required to help the trees cope with the drought. So I don't recommend permanent watering because you want the roots to grow deep in the ground, to really look for water deep on the ground. If you water too often, the roots will stay on the surface, and the day you switch off the watering, the trees might not cope. So you don't do much watering, but when you do, you bring a lot of water at once, like a heavy rain. And this is the forest a few months later. So you see the transformation. It's actually the next summer. So the summer after that, we had much better rain. And you can see that the Miyawaki forest recovered really, really well. And this year, I will expect that the trees will reach the tree that you see in the middle with the brown leaves. So it's doing really, really well. And it went through a harsh summer without. So it's good news. The Miyawaki forest is really robust, is very, very resilient. That's another example, a Miyawaki forest within in a school. And then it grew, it looked really good. Everything was fine until that very harsh summer I just mentioned in 2022. And some trees didn't look good at all. You see the leaves turn yellow, they dropped. But we didn't do any watering. The tree layer was already there. And yeah, we didn't do any watering. I was a bit worried, will the trees cope with the drought? And when the rain returned, the trees look really good. So it really shows how, even if it's dry, the trees, can cope for a certain time. And as soon as the rain return, they flourish again. This is another example in France. This is Champagne, the region in France where they make champagne. And this region has no more trees, no more forests. It's only vineyards and things like that. And the local villages suffer from the heat in summer. So the mayor of this town asked me to create a Miyawaki forest to bring some shade so that the people can be together and not stay in the house all summer long because it's too hot. And as you can see, it worked really well. This is the results in 3 years. It's quite amazing how much a Miyawaki forest can change in a neighborhood. This is another example. So we created this forest on a slope. So hang on, I just switch off. Sorry about this. So we created this forest on the slope, and this is the result a few months later. So it started really well. It looked very promising. But then the second year, we realized that the tree didn't grow much. The topsoil was really hard, very compacted despite all the work we did. And we actually realized that the water, when it rains, runoff on the surface of the forest. The water didn't suck in the ground. So what we did is first we created a swell on top of the forest so that it collects the water, it infiltrates, and by gravity, it water the trees below. So that's the first thing we did. And we also inoculated microorganisms. So it's totally natural. I make a very good compost at home with lots of bacteria, fungi, protozoan, nematodes. It's really good and rich with life. And we mix that with water and we inoculate that in the forest. It's really good. The idea of this microorganism is to break the compaction layer on top of the soil and help the trees. So let's see if it works. This is after some maintenance. This is the day we inoculated the microorganism and the day we created the swell. And this is the year after. So it's pretty amazing how much a difference a swell and microorganism can do to the trees. It's quite rare to see how much of an impact one can have on vegetation. And I must say, when I saw the result, I was quite stunned and happy to realize that simple methods can actually make a huge difference. This is another example. We work in a garden. They wanted a Miyawaki forest at the bottom of the garden. But again, the ground was really hard. So we got a lot of runoff. So I invited them to create swells to collect water and help infiltrate the water once again. Same thing as the project that I saw you before. And this is the result a year and a half later. So this simple technique can really help collect water. We didn't water once. It's all natural. So yeah, this creating swells, basins, infiltrating natural water in the ground can really help the vegetation cope for weeks or months without any rain. This is another example I enjoy showing you. It's this is a real estate for companies, and they had a loan, as you see in many places. But you have to realize that even if a loan is clean, it's a desert. There's no life. There's nothing to look at. It's only, a layer of green, but nothing. So they asked to create a Miyawaki forest. And at first, some of them were a bit skeptical, will it work? What's this new thing about, this Miyawaki methods? And they were so happy with the results. You can see the Miyawaki forest on the right-hand side at the bottom, the photo at the bottom. And they were so happy about this that they decided to change the way they manage the park and to have more biodiversity. So they let the grass grow with white flowers. They planted native shrubs, fruit trees. They planted some trees, also native. They really made the connection that, a natural garden attract biodiversity. It looks good. We create habitat for the native fauna, and the people are happy, So It was a bit of a challenge at first, but quite, I mean, i- the whole thing changed much quicker than expected. So it's a very positive sign that that the trend is really there. You know, that people are really looking for a change in the way we manage green spaces. This is another example in Paris, France. So that's a typical real estate. You know, they make a building, and the ground is totally destroyed, no greenery. So we really had to build up the soil. So we you know we made the soil much like fluffy. You know, we broke the compaction layer. We brought manure and compost and woody material. And this is what you see 2 years later. So imagine living in a concrete jungle, you know, like Paris, and you have an ecosystem like this in front of your window. So I mean, I see that some real estate understand that it's good, that you know, it has value to property. It looks good. It's easier to rent apartments when you have such a garden. So it's really picking up. I'm doing more and more Miyawaki forest for real estates. So this is a quick summary. So what can go wrong? When you do a Miyawaki forest, you really have to understand soil biology. You have to prepare the soil properly with the right mix of amendments. You have to think, you know, how can I provide nutrients for the trees? You know, if you want fungi to connect with the trees, so what do fungi like? They like woody material, so you bring woody material into your soil. You try to find material that will store water in your soil. So, yeah, understanding soil is the first thing. Then it's about species selection. It's really important to plant only native species. The idea of the Miyawaki method is to restore our natural heritage. It's to restore the forest of the past. This is the kind of forest that only grow where you are. It's unique, and you really need to, you know, build proud about this natural heritage. So the idea is to bring back that tree community. So you really need to do some research to find what is the tree community in your area, what are the native species, um, which species are dominant, secondary, minor, and do it properly. Um, then, of course, don't plant too late. Really try to plant at the beginning of the raining season. That's very important. So you don't need to do any watering. It will help the sapling get a good start. And then if it's really dry the first summer, try to think of natural, you know, things, you know, like creating swells and things like that, canals, basins, so you can collect, so you can harvest rainwater and help your forest be more resilient. And of course, maintenance is required for the first 2 to 3 years. That's very important. That's a bit of work. You have to do it only by hand. The idea is to remove all the weeds and invasive plants that take over the trees, you know, plants that grow too fast over the trees, that take the light. Um, so you need to do a bit, so you remove the weeds and you leave them on the ground as a natural mulch. Um, so yeah, it's important to build knowledge on soil ecology and do the right selection of native species only. So think about the soil, think about the right mix of species. How can you make your forest moist? For example, if it's very windy, perhaps on the side of the wind, you can build a edge or whatever you can find to stop the wind. You know, the wind is really harsh on the trees. The wind dry the ground really fast, and also when it's windy, you know, the plants have to stand up against the wind. It requires more energy. So if you cut the wind, you know, if you try to decrease the intensity of the wind, you will help your forests. And of course, maintenance. So that's it for me. Um, I hope you know you get into it and see some opportunities and have fun.